What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'll talk about some very, very key levels to watch for and what's happening next to Tesla stock. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, what's happening to Tesla in the markets right now is very interesting. So the market started off with a bit of a push upon open, and then we saw this big dump that ended up panning out. Now there's some buyers defending again, and overall we're still in these ranges. So the question is, what's happening to Tesla and the markets? The answer is we're in a range right now, but there is still some risk of downside for Tesla when you look at the charts. As for SPY, there's also that risk depending on if we lose key support. But just know that for the market for today, initial jobless claims is very close to expectations, a little bit below, which wasn't too bad. That's why the market tries to rebound. It's also the first trading day of 2025. The market was starting off with a small push, but then the overall move is like slowing down, and that's what's also causing this, an entire wave of market selling that's been also taking place. So that's why the market's in a range. As far as Tesla goes, I just want to say that deliveries were not the best. I still think Tesla did relatively well. If you compare their previous quarters, this is still a new record for them, despite the fact that there are high interest rates and other factors affecting Tesla. Despite all of that, we still did 495,000, which is still a new record for them. So just keep that in mind. However, Wall Street was expecting 506,000 plus, if not 515,000 from different sources. So Tesla did come short below deliveries, unfortunately, and that's why the share price remains kind of weak. We also saw a loss in deliveries compared to what we saw from before. So in 2023, we did 1.8 million deliveries. In 2024, we did we did 1.78 million. So small decrease for Tesla. That's why the share price has been lackluster. Anyways, that's what's been going on in terms of the news. So the question is, what's happening from this point on? Tesla's trying to hold 383R20 EMA in the 5-minute time frame. If this fails us, we're looking for a move back down to about 380 to 378. This is the next support down here. Our resistance is going to be at 386.5. If that breaks, we're looking for an attempt to get to 390. This is the range on Tesla we're technically in. So that's what Tesla's doing right now. We're in this range, mainly between 386 and 380. However, despite this range, Tesla is down about 5% right now. It's a very psychological area. And if we go back to the 4-hour time frame, I do want to say that there is still weakness on the charts. When you look at the 4-hour on Tesla, there's technically a downtrend that's been perpetuating, and there's still a risk of more downside when you look at this because we haven't really tested our 200 EMA, which is a very nice confluence right here. Because typically, when you get breakouts in different charts, so for example, Tesla had the cup and handle from back in November, right? Remember when Tesla got their breakout around December? That was right before right before that we had that cup and handle. This is the main breakout area. So the first breakout area was right here, which is around 400, which is what we lost. So now we have 380 is one of our main supports. We did call out that support in case Tesla did see some bad numbers. I did say that for many weeks. I was expecting that if Tesla did poorly. Now we have this breakout area around the 363 zone. That's where the cup and handle happened to be. And it also aligns with our 200 EMA for the time being. So this is starting to flatten as we get to the lower 360s. This is still favoring downside a bit more when you look at the overall trend. Despite the fact that Tesla's trying to hold 380 right now, there's still a risk of more downside. So I hope that's very, very clear, guys. For now, the market is holding up, and then Tesla's also trying to hold up with it. But the issue is that the overall trend is looking bearish, and there's still a risk of downside. We will turn back to bullish if we could try to get back above 400. Yes, my view could shift, but for now, the direction of Tesla stock is favoring downside. Okay, so that's what we're seeing for the time being. Now, when it comes to SPY, okay, this is also looking not the best. So we have a head and shoulders, right? There's this left shoulder here, a head and a right shoulder. But as of the last couple of days, SPY has not been dumping. It's also not been pumping. It's stuck in the middle. And let me explain. So when you look at our 30 minutes time frame, for example, SPY tends to get bought back up around the 585 area. There are buyers that try to defend it around there. However, as we get to about the low 590s, we also tend to reject going back and forth between supply and demand. So at the 590 zone, we reject. Off 585, we tend to get bought back up. And that's what SPY's been doing for the last 3 days. Notice the back and forth price action, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So that's all SPY is doing for now. So for now, we're range bound. When we go down to the 585 zone, we tend to get bought back up. When we go up to about 590, the low 590 to 591 area, we tend to reject. So overall, we're stuck If we could break 592, our 30 minutes 200 EMA, SPY turns bullish. We're looking for 596 plus as a potential target if we break the 592s. And if we end up losing 585, we turn more bearish, and we're going to be looking for a move all the way down to like 580 or below to like 577. So it could go either way. We're range bound right now, but I do want to say that as of right now, I do favor downside a little bit more because of the big head and shoulders that's still present on SPY. So one thing you have to remember is that the market's full of exceptions. There's a lot of trickery that happens in the markets. Nothing is always guaranteed. But in terms of this setup, this is looking quite probable to play out. There's still a risk of downside heading into this year. So just make that very, very clear, guys. This is still looking bearish in terms of the setup, although SPY is range bound for the shorter term. For ES, the same thing. It is technically in a more like bearish phase. We have like the head and shoulders. There's a downtrend, but we're range bound as well. And what I mean is we tend to reject just under 6,000, around 59.80 to 6,000. We reject, and we tend to get bought back up around the 59.20 area, going back and forth and back and forth. So we're stuck within a range. Now, we could be dipping below 59.20. If that fails us, this will be turning a lot more bearish to 5900 or below. But we haven't really lost that yet. So we're still technically in a range. So give this some time to develop. We are in a range. So I think that this is going to likely continue until we see one of these directions break. I know it's not what a lot of people want to hear, but that's just me being honest about what I see. Nvidia is looking more bullish. I think that this might try to get close to 140. However, we haven't officially broken it yet, so I can't truly say we're too bullish. There's a possible inverse head and shoulder setup that was developing, but we need to break 142 to reach 146. Otherwise, for now, we're going to be watching to see if we can slowly get back up to about 140. That's going to be the main level. And if we lose 136.8, we turn back down. This has the potential to push higher, but give this the time it needs. We'll see if we can break 140 or not. I still see potential for this to try to push a little bit. Bitcoin looks a little bit more bullish. We could get closer to about 98,000. If we can't break that, our main support's at 95,730. If that fails us, we turn back down. So there's some potential to push a bit higher, but just be careful at 98,000. We got very close to it. We have not been able to crack past it yet. For NQ, okay, this is range bound. We were not able to crack past 21,500, and at the same time, we have not been able to lose for the last couple of days to 21,100s. So if we lose 21,000, we turn bearish. If we break 21,500, we're more bullish. Otherwise, we're just range bound. I do see a risk of us dipping a little bit later on, but we're still fine. For coin, we're also not coin, QQQ. For the QQQ, we're also range bound. We have 511 as our main support, so we're holding it decently so far. We also have tough resistance between 516 to 518. So notice the last 3 days, we're going back and forth and back and forth. Now, in my opinion, we could be dipping a little bit towards the 511 area. There is a possibility that this will dip a little bit more, but we have not lost the support yet to really start dipping to like 507 to 505. So we haven't lost critical support yet, but there is a risk of this dipping a little bit more. Looking at the setup, we'll see how it reacts to 511. We might retest that, but just be careful as we're still technically range bound. Apple's on a bit of a downtrend. We hit 244. We had some negative news that came out, especially with what's happening in China. However, look at resistance right over here now at 246. We need to try to reclaim the 247 area. If we get back above that, I would look for a move back up. If we can't do that, this is still favoring the downside, and we could be watching 244 as the main support. If that fails, that's previous resistance becoming support. If that fails us, we're going down to 242.5. Just be careful. There's a risk of downside on Apple, but just know your levels just to be safe. Palantir is coming back down exactly as you predicted. I did call out how this could be dipping a bit, and unfortunately, that's what's been happening so far. It needs to reclaim 77.43 to turn bullish. Otherwise, this is favoring downside for 74. And if that fails us, this imbalance takes us lower to like 72. For the Russell, we have let me just double check. 222.8. Now there's a possible head and shoulders here. If you actually look at the setup, there's like a left shoulder here, a head, and then a right shoulder. If we lose 222.38, we're looking for a dip back down to 220. And we have to break 225 to turn back up. With the head and shoulders on the IWM, there's a chance we could be dipping lower. So just be careful. It does favor downside a little bit more. Coin is looking decent. It's stuck in a range. We have 262 as the main resistance. If we manage to break that, it's going to be a good sign. Looking for 270. If we can't break 262, there's going to be a risk of it coming back down to 250. So keep those levels in mind. It's stuck in a range, but it has not been able to break resistance. I think Amazon's in the same boat. We need to break 223.8 to turn back up. If we can't do that, there's going to be a risk of us coming back down to 220. There's still that gap to fill down here, so just be careful with Amazon. And then technically, it is on a downtrend here. We've been making lower highs and lower lows for just the last couple of weeks at least. I'm not talking about the long term, just the short term. So there's a risk of this dipping lower. But unless we reclaim 223, it favors downside. 223.8 to be more precise. Meta needs to hold above 600 to get back up to 610. Otherwise, we do favor a move back down to 595, if not 589. So this might be tipping back down to 595, not doing the best of job at holding up. Two more. We have Microsoft looking a little bit more bearish. We're at 420. Very funny number. If we lose 420, we're looking for a move back down towards not just 420 flat, but also 418. So there's still weakness on Microsoft because when you zoom out, as you can see, it's on a downtrend. There's no sign it's broken past 425 to 428 to turn bullish. It's technically on a downtrend. Google's in the same boat. It has the head and shoulders, but it hasn't really lost critical support yet. So we have resistance around 192.8, and then our main support is going to be over here around 190-ish. So we're stuck in the middle. It might be dipping to 190. If that fails, this will be dipping lower. Just be careful, guys. With that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Unfortunately, the market is in a range, but there is still weakness that perpetuates because we haven't been able to crack past resistance. As far as Tesla goes, although it's in a range right now as I speak, just know that's what I'm saying for the shorter term. For the more medium term, if you look at the trend, it's more bearish. Tesla's still looking more bearish. It's still down 5%, and there's still a risk of it dipping lower. So please keep that in mind. Let's see if 380 holds. If not, we're looking for a retest of potentially the low of the day. And if that fails us, we're looking for the very, very critical support at the 200 EMA around the 363 to 365 area, very close to where this breakout was from the cup and handle back in November. Okay. So that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a good rest of your day. I'll be back in a couple of hours for another update. Until then, I appreciate you guys for listening and peace out.